Alright, in this video we're going to look at making a bridge. And a couple of videos ago I told you I have two D-35s in here for identical stuff. And one of those identical things is a new bridge. So this is the one that I used for the removal of the bridge plate video. And you can see, let's take a look at this real quick. You have to kind of go back and look at the other video too, you know. This is where the finish blistered a little bit during the bridge plate removal. And I put a little bit of lacquer on it, poked it in the holes, sanded it smooth. It feels great now. And it's got just a little bit of a crispy look at it. But I mean, look at the rest of the top on it. You know, it's shattered. It's got finish. It's no big deal on this one. I'll probably work on it just a little bit more. But I got it pretty smoothed out. Looks good. Doesn't look any worse than any of these other dings all over it, which is what you like to see. You know, this kind of guitar I like to work on. You know, one that's beat up already. So got a nice crack in the top. We're going to build a bridge. So let's talk a little bit about my choices. First of all, let's talk about the choice of wood here. You can start with this. This is a bridge blank. I get most of my blanks from Luthier's Mercantile. I think Luthier's Mercantile has pretty good wood. It's very consistent. As far as just individual piece of wood, it's a little bit tricky because it's a big piece of wood. So in other words, you take a bridge like this. In fact, both of these bridges are cracked. This one's cracked in between the pins, and that did not really show up until I went to take the bridge off, and then when I was heating it, you know, those cracks just spread like wildfire. This one's obviously cracked, and it's cracked out here on the ends, and it's cracked in between the pins. I thought about trying to save this one, and I could, you know. You could get some hot glue in there, and you could save this bridge. But the owner also wants to move from 2 1/8 of an inch to 2 1/4 of an inch. Given all that, I think I should just make a new bridge because it's a headache filling in the holes and expanding them. I've done it a couple times now, and honestly, it's easier to just make a new bridge. So, point of this is I've got two D-35 bridges here to do. The guitars themselves actually are a little bit different. The saddle location on this one is wrong. It's off by 1/8 of an inch. The saddle location on the other one is correct. Pretty correct. In other words, it's off by like 1/32 of an inch. So not much difference there. Or not much. It's not off by much. So these two guitars are going to require two different approaches because this bridge has got to be scooted. And it's too bad that it's not reversed because this one, if you see, it's got some black specking down here, and this is where the old bridge stained the top. The other one is fantastic. It looks like virgin wood almost. So I wish I was scooting the bridge on that one and putting this one back in the same spot because I'm going to have a little bit more of a black scar to deal with on this one. But that's the way it goes, you know. So it's going to take me some different approaches on this, and here's what I'm going to get at here. Now, let me finish what I was going to say about the wood here. The point is when you get something like this that's in a thin bridge, you can flex it around and you can twist it like that, back and forth, and you can kind of see if it's going to break in your hands. Like if I twisted this one, it'd break in my hands. I can see that crack opening up as I do this. When you get a blank, you can't do that. There's nothing you can do. You know, you just kind of have to kind of look at the grain and look for anything obvious. Luthier's Mercantile has already pretty much done that for me. You know, that's why I say they're a good wood supplier. Look at this piece of wood. Pretty good piece of wood. You can tap on it. I like to use an old piano deal. You can tap on it, listen to the tap tone. And different blanks sound different. There's a stack of them. You know, these are all ebony blanks. They're all African ebony, African ebony, African ebony. These are all African ebony bridge blanks. So the same kind of wood may have a slightly different tone to it. But the question is, so I can't pick a certain tone for you. Now, if I know that you want a bright guitar, you want to bass your tone, then I can do that. But it also matters is how does it, the bridge is not a freestanding entity. You know, this is not the guitar. It's got to go with the top. It's got to go with the bridge plate. It's got to go with the neck. So basically, if you want a bassier sounding guitar, I can go with a little bit of a bassier bridge blank. I can use a different wood. On D-35s, I like to use, for instance, a hot rosewood. You know what I mean by hot rosewood. A Brazilian, Madagascar, Honduran, Amazon, any kind of good rosewood like that. It will be definitely give the guitar a brighter, snappier tone. This guitar, one of these, the other D-35 is getting a large sound hole, which I think is a pretty good deal on a D-35. It tends to, it gives it more brightness and more mid-range right then and there. So I might not want to put a bright bridge and a large sound hole, and that's the guitar customer was really aware that he was going to get a bright, snappy guitar. Now, me personally, I like bright, snappy guitars. I like a lot of punch, I like a lot of treble, and I get the bass elsewhere, you know. So I could deal with that. But I had a guy one time that wanted me to do all these things, and he wanted a bright, snappy guitar. I gave him too much of a bright, snappy guitar. And when he got it in his hands and played it, he realized that it was too bright for him. You may have to change your technique a little bit, you know, if it's too bright. And so he wasn't willing to do that. So he wasn't real happy with it, and I ended up switching the bridge out on it to an ebony bridge. So neither one of these guys are going to do that. And plus, I have a second video where I tap a bunch of bridge banks, and overwhelmingly, the ebony bridge bank gets good marks. People can't tell what kind of wood I'm tapping. They just see the tap. They don't know what it is, and people pick the ebony, and they pick the Brazilian rosewood. Surprising number have picked the Indian rosewood. You know, some of the aftermarket Indian rosewood is pretty good stuff, really. So, but ebony's a good choice. So, okay, there's my wood choices. So I really can't do much, you know, with this blank. Plus, I'm going to cut it almost in half in order to, you know, and the wood grain is different underneath there. So I'm just picking out a piece of ebony at this point that looks good. A lot of times I'll match it to the fingerboard, especially with rosewood. I want a dark one, don't want a light one, that kind of thing. On the shop's 1972 D18 sitting over there, I wanted, because it's a shop guitar, I wanted to try a different kind of wood on it. My gut reaction would be Brazilian rosewood or Madagascar rosewood. Experience is showing me that I like those two woods a lot on a D18. But on this shop guitar, because it's different, I wanted something different, so I used Grenadille, which I had in the tone ring of a John Hartford Deering banjo once, and it really sounded good. I mean, I played a bunch of banjos. I was looking for a good banjo, and then at Winfield, you know, there's a bunch of banjos to play, and I went down and played all the banjos. And when I hit the John Hartford, I knew nothing about it. I didn't know that it had a wooden tone ring or anything about it. When I played it, it was like, wow, this is really nice. This is a very musical banjo. And that's when I found out about the Grenadille wood. And I have used it occasionally in bridges and occasionally in various sort of things. But I decided I wanted to try it on that D18. And when you tap it, and it's on that video, nobody picked it. When you tap it, it's got a deeper tone, almost a dull tone. I wouldn't say it's dull like Indian rosewood. It's got a sharpness to the tone, but it's a deeper tone. But combined with the bridge plate, combined with the top and everything, I like the way it sounds on that guitar. And people play the guitar and they go, wow, this is really good. And it's got a richness and a fullness and a depth to the tone. So I kind of got what I was looking for. Now, one of these days, I'm probably going to go over there and change the bridge and put a Brazilian bridge on it. Madagascar rosewood, I don't know. That's what I have a shop guitar for, is to try stuff on. But on your guitar, I'm going to use my experience. My experience says we're going to go with the ebony bridge plank. Alright, so here is the original bridge, and I marked it to keep it straight from the other one. I'm going to lay it down here in its original location. Get my my ruler and check it again. I see that it's about an 1/8 of an inch off. So that's going to affect which bridge model I'm going to use here. And I'll show you that. This is going to come back to here. Looks good. About 1/8 of an inch. So as I explained in another video, when I move this back 1/8 of an inch, I can make the back of the bridge narrower. And when I do that, it gives it more of a 50 style, 30 style bridge, and it means I don't have to take much finish off the back here when I scoot it back. So here again, it's a 50 style, or the 50s bridge. It's not a 50 style, it's an actual 52, 51, I can't remember, D18. And when you put it on here, you see that the 70s bridge is about a 1/16 of an inch bigger. And there's a real difference out here on the wings. The wings, quite a bit different. So, when I take this 50 style bridge and scoot it backwards, it covers the old footprint in the back. So in other words, the scoop doesn't show. If I took, well, if I'm scooting it back, it doesn't show any of this, but if I just took this bridge and put it down in the regular spot, there's a lot of finish showing up around the back of the bridge. The front is on, but there's a lot showing up around the back. Since I'm going to scoot it backwards, I pick up that. So, I'm going to get to use a 50s profile bridge on this. Now, I got an option on that, and one of those options is this pre-made Stu Mac bridge, which they just came out with. And this thing has been a real lifesaver. It's a time saver, it's not a lifesaver. It's a pre-cut bridge that is got some pretty good specs on it. Previously, I had these pre-cut bridges from Luthier's Mercantile, and they were oversized bridges. And that was fine because I would go down there and I would take it down to where I wanted it, and at least I didn't have to cut it out of this. It saved me a little bit of time getting the profile approximate. But when Stu Mac came out with these, the shape and the profile and everything are really, really good. So I've been using a couple of these, and for me it's important to get a pre-made bridge that doesn't have holes or a bridge slot in it, saddle slot. Because in this case, the customer wants a 2 1/4 inch spacing and a long saddle. So that combination is something that I'm going to put into this pre-shaped blank. Okay? So, you know, I used a couple of these, and I would extensively reshape them, and they didn't save me all that much time. They saved me a little bit of time. I never use them like that. So I'm going to take this blank, and we're going to see if it's going to work or not. So I'm going to set it down here, about 1/8 of an inch back from where it needs to be, and take a look at it. And it does, in fact, covers the scallop on the back. I'm going to use this bridge on this guitar. However, the other guitar over there, bridge is in the correct place, so that bridge is not going to work on there. You see? You follow me? If I take this thinner bridge and put it down on here, it won't work because there's finish showing around the back, and I don't want to see that. To me, finish on the back is a lot uglier than finish on the front. Under the front, it's hidden on under the strings, it's up by the pickguard. Visually, the scar on the front is much less obvious than the scar on the back. So I don't want to use this thinner bridge on the other D-35. So what I'm going to do is show you now how to actually make a bridge. So, here is the bridge off of the other guitar, the other D-35. Now the interesting thing about D-35s is that they are a little bit thinner than a D-18. Here's a 70s D-35. And looking at it, I can tell you it's very 50s in shape. Here's your 70s D18. When you lay these two bridges up on each other, you can see that the D18 bridge is fatter up here. So this 70s D-35 bridge comes very, very close to the 50 D-18 bridge. It's got just a little bit different right here, but it's a thinner bridge. So I'm going to use this bridge to make an exact, we hope, copy that I'm going to then put my own holes and my own saddle shot on. Okay? So it's taking us 15 minutes to get to this point, but I'm telling you how I'm evaluating this thing. What am I going to do? I can't just slap, I'm not going to just slap out a bridge. I've got some options here, got some decisions to make, and so I'm giving you my thought process on this. So here's how I make a bridge. Get my blank. I'm going to use this one. Decide which side I want to go up. And I'm looking for an imperfection, like there's a little bit of knot right there. It's going to get cut off anyway, and it doesn't come through. That looks pretty good. I think I'm going to actually put that knot on the bottom, just to make sure it's out of the way. And I can dodge them a lot of times, But I'm going to set the bridge down here. Get it lined up at the top really good. And then, simply hold it down with my finger, come in with a pencil, scribe around it. Like that. I've used an awl to do this too, but when you go over to the sander and the bandsaw, the pencil mark is easier for me to see. Go. It reflects the light, and it's just easier for me to see. So there is the mark I'm going to start with. Now, part of the reason we're replacing this bridge, I think this bridge, no, the other bridge is shaved. The other bridge is shaved. I'm going to check this one. This bridge is 368 thick, so that's good. It's a full height bridge, 370. And 334, that's right. 370, 334, that's a good height. The blank is 456, so obviously I'm going to have to take it down. And this is a good height bridge. This one has been shaved. I can tell right away it's been shaved by looking at it, because it wasn't a very good shaving. A good shaving can really fool you. Look at the top profiles here. See, this is flat back here, and this is curved. You see that? The shaved bridge is flat across, and this one's got a nice curve on it. So when they shaved this one, they probably shaved it right on the top of the guitar, and they weren't able to build a curve back into it. And the softness of the wings changes too. Get these lined up this way. I got the name down. See, the wings are nice and sharp, and over here they're soft, which happens when you shave across. You've got to recut the wings. So, here's my bridge blank, and this is the thing I really hate about these things. You're going to waste all that wood. That's a nice chunk of ebony. What I'm trying to do is get me a little mini lathe. I can cut dowels out of that, do something with it. But I'm going to waste a lot of wood. First thing to do now is I'm going to walk over to the bandsaw. I'm going to flip the camera around, and can't talk much while the bandsaw is going, but I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the bandsaw up, and I'm going to cut it off here to thin this down before I ever go to the belt sander. So let's go do that. Alright, we're going to talk about the bandsaw setup a little bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit because once I turn this and the vacuum on, it's all going to be over. Forgot the blank. Here it is. No, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So there's my pencil mark on the blank, and I'm going to cut the other side off. I've got marks on my bandsaw table here. So I'm going to scoot the fence over, And right on that red mark, boom. I've also got this little piece of wood that I cut a long time ago that is kind of neat. This depth gives me the depth of the pinholes. So when I get the bridge done, I'm going to set it up like this. I'm going to draw a line on the top of it, and that's where my pinholes are going to go. The second one, the 370 here, is the depth of the bridge. So I can take this piece of wood and slide it through there like that, and okay, that's where I need to be. Okay? So it's a multi-use little piece of wood. That's one thing I did cut out in the back of one of these. And made that little gauge. It's handy. Alright, here we go. So there's my pencil mark. I'm going to set it up here. Now one thing I'm going to do before I do this is I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. So at least I can shave a full width piece of wood, you know. And then I'll put this in here. So you can watch all this process happen, and you ought to obviously be decently well versed in bandsaw safety before you try this at home. I got a vacuum. I'm going to turn it on. I got a dust collector thing over here too, but all I've found is I don't have a whole dust collection system set up, and I was disconnecting hoses and moving, and this shop vac is sitting down there at the barn. I just thought, you know what, and so I've got a vacuum for the bandsaw and I've got a vacuum for the belt sander, and to me that's just the easier way to work it. So here we go. It's going to be noisy. Standard old belt sander. I've got the dust collector up here on the top rather than on the bottom. Here's my bridge blank at this point. Got it roughed out. Pretty rough on the bottom right now. And we're going to start shaping it. And again, I'm going to turn the vacuum on. It's going to get loud. Here's the original bridge. I like to keep this handy. And the other thing that I'm going to get, that I need to go grab, is my calipers. And I have a caliper as I go along. I'm not going to be able to talk much with the roar of all the machinery, but I'll put some captions or that kind of thing. You'll figure it out. I'll point it at you and you can see what's going on, okay? Okay, what we've got so far is a pretty good roughed out blank right now. And you will notice that the curve of this 2-inch curve right here is perfect for getting the curves on this. You can work right around in there and hold the thing flat to get this curve and etc. And I took it right down to the pencil mark, compared it with the bridge, the stock bridge that I'm using. What I'm doing now is I'm cutting in some rough scallops right here because I'm going to get the bridge angle right. I'm going to get the bridge top curve right. And it's thinner on the treble side than it is on the bass side. So this bridge here, which I'm not going to copy quite totally exactly, but 365, 325, so it's got a drop of 40 thousandths of an inch, which is what I shoot for. I usually like to get about 340 on the bass side and around 300 on the treble side. And that gives you a pretty even saddle height across the bridge. If you make the bridge flat like this and put the saddle on there, you'll end up with a much different saddle height on one side than the other. So in order to rock the bridge on this, I'm going to cut some rough scallops here. After I do the rough scallops, after I get the height of the bridge where I want it, then I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to mark on here how far in I want the actual scallops to go, and then I will recut the scallops. So one of the first things I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hold the bridge up like this where I want it, and I'm going to mark the bass side at the low E point. And what I do is just kind of get where the pinhole is, and I put a plus over there and a minus over there. And that way when I'm calipering it, I can tell you which side's the bass side and which side's the treble side. Obviously, you got to be able to tell by looking at it, but you know, things happen. So, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and start rocking it to get the curve that I want on the top. And then I will recut the scallops, and then we're going to be moving along on it. Okay, so at this point with the bridge blank, I've got it roughed in pretty good, and what I was trying to show you here was the C shape. This is a real important thing you got to get on your Martin bridge. You got to get this little C on the wings, and you get that when you cut this back edge here. And I just roughed it in, and we're going to go finish it up now. So at this point, I'm definitely going to go check it on the guitar. I want the bass wing over here to be about 1/50th of an inch. I want this one to be about 1/30th of an inch. And that to me gives a nice look. If this wing was fatter, it would make this curve look less, and I don't like the way that looks. I want it to be balanced out pretty well. Okay? So that's looking pretty good. We're about maybe halfway done. Well, here's our bridge blank. Starting to turn into a bridge now. I got it on the workbench, the edge of the workbench. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to smooth out those sanding curves that I made. I checked it on the guitar. I'm happy with the fit of it. Let's see if I can get this clamp out of the way so you can just see. You know, I just use a utility razor blade for a lot of these things. And what we're going to do is just come in here and scrape it. Now we've got to clamp it. I'm just looking to smooth out that curve. Smooth the curve out and get rid of any sanding marks that are on there. I'm not done with the sanding yet, but okay, there's the back profile of the bridge right now. And I like the bridge to go smooth curve pretty much all the way down. No flat spots down here. Just a little bit of a flat spot maybe, but it's going to merge in so gently that you won't see it. That's the pre-war style back of the bridge. So now, I'll take a little sandpaper now. Some people don't like to use sandpaper. I'm not afraid of it for some things. And I'm going to use this to just smooth that in a little bit more. Also, if you notice on the belt sander, I went like this and I went cross grain. You know, the sander went this way. So it's got little cross grain scratches in here. And this will remove those. Smooth that out. I just use my finger for this, as you can see. Huh? Yeah. And I like to see, you know, pretty even marks here. These little flat spots, I like to see those merge in. It's all about your eye, you know, like I said before, if it looks good, then it is good in this case. And so you just want a smooth curve going in there, about the same amount of flat area showing on each end. Your eye is pretty good gauge. Now, here's a little trick you use that nobody does anymore. The pre-wars are like this. In fact, Randy Lucas pointed this out to me one time. And that is the edges are square right now. So take a piece of sandpaper and strop the edges down. Like this. Smooth the edges round. Okay, so it looks like that. Got a round edge to it instead of a square edge. Not a big deal, but it makes it look a little bit better. It makes it look less factory, okay? Because the factory doesn't do this. Down. Now you got to get the C shape on the front of the bridge. Oops, there you go. You got to get the C shape on the front of the bridge right here, And right now it's all nice and square. So we're going to put it back down in here. And we're going to strop the front edge of the bridge. And that's going to give us the C shape leading into this corner. Clamp it down again. Use the same sheet of sandpaper here. And just go like this. That. Bring this one in. Run those out a little bit. And that is where you get the C shape. Got the C here, and I got the C shape here. So it looks like that. Now it's starting to look like a bridge. You could, at this point, polish it up if you wanted to. However, I don't like to spend too much time on a bridge until it's done because I've blown it. Bridges are not one of my most favorite things to make. And simply because there's so many steps and you can blow it on the very last step, which for me is cutting the saddle slot. I cut the saddle slot on the guitar, and that way I can get that exactly where I want it for intonation. And I have had the bit come loose one time and blow the saddle slot. Glued onto the guitar, pinholes done, everything done, cutting the saddle slot, blew it. Now comes the tricky part. Get the stuff out of the way. Okay, we're going to put the pinholes in. Here's my second pinhole depth gauge. This is just a piece of wood that's nicely trimmed. It's ready to go. So in other words, if you put it up like this, and it'll give you the depth of the pinholes, or where I want the centers to be. Like that. Okay. Pre-war and vintage are actually a little bit farther forward than this, but this is a safe distance. Meaning if you get it too close, you've blown it. So I'm going to set it up here. I'm just going to scribe and make sure it's all nice and solid. I'm going to scribe me a line across here. It's shifted on me. That looks pretty good. Nice straight line. Okay. Then I'm going to get this little tool that I have from Luthier's Mercantile. And this. This is fun. Okay, this guy, I think I'm going to double check, make sure he's getting 2 1/4 and 2 1/4. 2 1/4. Both bridges are going to be the same on these D-35s. Get myself down here. This has got different gauges in them. We're going to go to 2 1/4. Excuse me. Now, one last thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to mark on here approximately about a boundary. So I need to measure this old bridge here. And from the center, it's about 5 millimeters. And about 5 millimeters. I'm just going to give myself a couple of reference marks on this bridge. You'll see why in just a second. So I'm going to set this down here. Set it right there. There's the 5. And right there. And okay. Looks good. 5. 5. Now, that gives me a reference mark on the bridge. So that when I do this, I can see where I'm going to be hitting. This is tricky. Set that on there, put these little pads under there. There's no use marking up your nice bridge. Okay? Now I don't really have any adjustability here, so, and really adjustability is a tricky thing. So what I'm going to do is just take this and I'm going to drop it on the 2 1/4. And I want to see where it hits on the bridge. Okay, and it's hitting a little bit to the left of my mark. So I'm going to scoot it over right there. Okay, it's on the pencil line and it needs to scoot over quite a bit more, probably about right there. Right there. Right there. And snug that just a little bit. So here's what I'm looking at. I can see the pencil line through there and I can see my reference marks. I'm trying to get this tool, this pointer, to land at about the same distance on the reference mark. So here's a reference mark, okay? I'm trying to get the pointer to land about that far and about that far on either side. And again, your eye is the king. So if it looks good, it is good. And I can definitely see the other line. The pointer hitting right on my distance line. So that's safe. That's safe. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good too. You can come in here like this and get a little measurement. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I like it. Okay, I'm going to tighten the screws. Groove. Okay, now this is going to generate a little bit of wobble. You know, this rod wobbles a little bit here and there, and that can change your points a little bit. So you just got to kind of get the balance for it. You know, you don't be pushing it one side or the other. Let it balance. Give it a little tap. Just a little tap, and I'll show you why. I'm going to take a look at it before I take it out. Because like the pencil lines are all, no, that one's off a little bit. That one's on, 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 that one's off, that one's off, okay? But it's okay because it's under treble. Still, I'm moosing this just a little. Let's get that forward just a hair. Just a hair. Yeah, that's good. I moved it back. God, these things are critical. Here's where I might fudge with this a little bit. I'm going to pull forward just a hair on this to make it hit the back edge of that line, which is where I want it. And then this one was pretty good. Okay. So what we've got so far, we've got those little marks on it, and they're very small marks, so that if I don't like them, I can actually just sand them away right now. I've got just a little bit more, a little bit of bridge height that I work with here, and I could sand them off and start all over again if I needed to. I'm looking very critically at how they line up on the line, and of course this matters whether or not my line is good, right? Because your line could be off, and then the whole thing's off. So I check these things as many ways as I can think of. So I'm going to come in like this. I'm going to measure from the front edge of that hole. Okay, 2, 1.5, then 1, 2, 3, 1.5, and then 3, whatever that is. 1.5, 1, 2, and yeah, that one's a hair too far forward. It needs to be right there. Yeah, it needs to be right there. So the line is accurate. The hole is not right now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. You need to go to the back half of these holes right here. So I could just draw a pencil line on here. You have a few chances to straighten this thing up. I'm going to use a very small drill bit to actually drill the initial holes, and from there I'm going to use a reamer, and as I work the reamer I can tilt it back just a little bitty bit to get it. But before I do that, I'm going to try to punch these holes a little bit more accurately. I'm going to come in here with this again. I'm going to do it by hand because this way is correct. I just want to move these two back a tiny amount. Right there. Let's see if I got that one. I like that one. Four and a half, 5, 1, 2, 3. I like that a lot right there. Okay, I got that one. I don't know how much I moved it, like thousandths of an inch, you know, but I did move it. There. Pop. Five, 1, 2, 3. That looks a lot better now. In front of the hole, 1, 2, 3. I like that. And you can do this. You can sight down it with your eye. Looks good. Now, I made those holes. You can see the difference in the holes. In the size. So once I'm comfortable with the rest of them, I'm going to go ahead and make them bigger. So the drill bit will grab them a little bit better. Okay? Eyeball the thing several times. Yeah, I like them. I think it'll be okay. Okay, before I go actually drilling any holes, this is my last chance to check and make sure everything is right. I'm going to set the bridge on here. About where I think it's going to go, and then I will check it. I don't have a saddle shot yet, so I'm going to just guesstimate. I can also measure from the front, which is good. 11 1/8 of an inch from the body of the guitar to the front of the bridge. The little caul, pad rather, clamp the bridge on. I'm going to check it out. That's pretty good. Push it again. Yeah, moved forward. thought it might have. It's moving around on the lacquer footprint. Not the 11 1/8. 11 1/8. And some strings. Here's some strings. What we're going to do now is check my E to E balance. I've got the holes where the pins are going to go, so I'm going to run some strings down here and see what they look like. I'll tell you what, nothing tangles up like strings. Let's see if I can get this one on. Here's the E. Got the E loose. And here's a treble. Is that a treble? Yep, that's the E to D. Okay. There we go. Oh, having that. That flat bottom. Sliding that on there to use for right now. Okay, we'll run this through the net. Check its position here. And looking, boy, it's going right perfectly, right down the binding. So that looks good. Let's check the base. If you're going to air, if you have to balance it one way or the other, you want the low E to go straight, you want the high E to come in a little bit, because a lot of people fret with their thumbs, and so having that low E, the consistent distance is good. And most people, when they pull the strings off of the fingerboard, which is bad technique, but you know, people do it, they will pull off the bottom generally, because you're trying to make your fingers bend and you pull them off. So I like to let the treble E come in a little bit if I'm going to make one of them come in. So there's that. And that also looks really good. So I feel comfortable that this bridge is going to go in the right place, and the E to E balance is good. So I feel comfortable about drilling the holes right now. Before I take the bridge off, I'm going to mark the saddle location. And it'll help me put that bridge right back where it was, okay? So that looks good. I'm checking the side, make sure the bridge is centered. It is centered. Pencil. Mark that. There's my pinhole. And so the base E is going to go right there. Notice if I had lead. Up there. And the treble E, middle of the 12th fret, on the pinhole. And the treble is going to go right there. Okay? I got my saddle location marked. I'll go ahead and pull this out. A little glue on it. Not a bad idea. Go ahead and punch a mark on this one. There's the all. There's a hammer. I'm going to go ahead and punch an all mark on this. So the drill bit doesn't slip. Got it. Through the top, through the plate, through my new bridge plate. Okay, so there's our bridge ready to be finished. It's got the marks where the saddle is going to go through, and you can see there's quite a bit of a compensation built in. It's more so than a stock Martin. Here's the 50s bridge again, and they need to kick the low E back in order to get the intonation correct. Okay? One thing I'm going to double check is that I can make a cut through here, and maybe that I have to actually scoot the bridge forward a little bit more than this indicates. I'm going to check that. Make sure that's straight as it comes right there. I might have to just go ahead and move the bridge forward a little bit, but I can handle that. I would double check all that before I actually glue a cut or anything, but these are easy to fix. Alright, what we're going to do now is drill the holes in the bridge, and I like to start with a very small drill bit. The cut's better, it's easier to do, and if I don't like the way the holes line up, it's easy to plug a small hole and then re-drill with a bigger drill bit. So I have a chance to save it. With this small of a drill bit, I don't even need to back up the plate here, because remember the next one's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm really going to go through it. I'm going to work up to probably next size up on this one, which I need to go get out of my drawer. So that's about it. You just get your drill press. And of course mine's already squared and leveled and all that kind of thing. And you drill it. This is a cool little light from Stu Mac, and it's magnetic and you can put it wherever you want. The light on this drill press is not working, unfortunately. So I wish this had a little bit more solid of a bend to it, but it works. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Okay, there's my first set of holes, and I'm going to eyeball these. I like them. Yeah, I like them pretty good. Remember, I had to move these two holes back, and they look pretty good. You can see how they all line up on the line, and that reference line is a really important thing. It's going through about the first third right there, maybe off just a hair right there, hair. These two are actually back just a tiny, tiny bit, but that's not a big deal. The main thing is they're in a line this way. I like them. So I'm looking at them this way, sighting it in. Like I said, if it looks good, it is good. If I like that well enough to go to the next size, drill bit. And you know, to me, this is just the safest way to do it. I've used brad point bits before. You can sometimes just do it right on the first shot, but I don't know. I just take a couple steps and do it. One or two drill bits. Especially when I've plugged them and I'm drilling through the dowel, because I found that when you're drilling through the dowel, the drill bit really wants to wander. And it's a lot easier to use a smaller bit then, especially. When I'm going through virgin wood like this, it's not that big of a deal. It goes pretty good. If you notice, what I'm doing here is I'm also letting that drill bit settle into the hole. So I'm holding the bridge kind of lightly, and it will self-center into that hole. Okay? So here's the next step up. Okay, next set of holes. And see, there's really not any chipping out of the back. The bigger drill bit took care of any little chipping that the small one might have caused. So again, just eyeball them. I like them. Another thing you can do is you can get yourself a straight edge. This is a straight edge from the bridge cut off. And you can put it up behind it. Like that. And you can take a look at it that way, see? And that edge pretty well eclipses the bottom of each hole. Makes a tangent off the bottom of each hole. So that's about as straight as you're going to get without having a CNC machine. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. One more hole. And actually, I'll probably do that on the guitar. So this bridge is ready to go get glued on right now. I will go ahead and leave these holes small. And I'll do the next one while it's on the guitar. It's got to go through the top, through the bridge plate and all that. And I'll just do all that then. I'll start with this real bit there. And I'll go through a small one, and then I'll go up to the next size that I want. And so there you have a bridge. You know, it's not totally polished yet, but that's, you know, my gosh, just go over and get yourself some white Brillo pad, polish it up or whatever you want. Some people use a buffing pad. I don't personally like a bridge to be that shiny. I don't want it to look glossy and fake and plastic. I just want it to look clean. Especially when you're putting it onto a 70s D-28 or something like that. You know, a guitar that's got some dings and bangs and stuff like that. I don't want a real shiny, nice looking, brand new spanking bridge on it. It wouldn't hurt if it had a little scratches on it, you know, make it look a little relic on it. So after I get done drilling the holes on the guitar, then I will go in with a countersink, and I'll probably show you that process once we get to the guitar. But this is ready to go. I'm going to use my locating pins here. I'm going to double check to make sure that this line will go across like this. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. So it's going to come pretty close to this forward edge right there. So what I might do is I might scoot the bridge forward just a 32nd of an inch or something, so that the entire saddle shot scoots back just a hair, so that I'm actually cutting on maybe the front edge of that, so that it would look like this, and I'd have that much room on the front edge of it, and that would look pretty good. And you can see it's got, like I said, it's got more angle than a stock Martin. Go take a look at Tony Rice's guitar sometime, and you'll see that that is a hand-cut bridge. In order to get the intonation correct, the saddle shot has to be back a little farther than a stock Martin. You know, stock Martin will get you pretty close, but you know, we want this to be right. I mean, I'm making a new bridge, and you know, my philosophy on the bridge, this isn't going to fool anybody. They're going to look at this and say, "Oh, that's not a Martin bridge," you know. Especially somebody with a keen eye, like, you know, George Groon or somebody like that. That's not going to fool them. So what you're trying to do is make the best bridge for the situation. And this is going to be the best bridge for the situation. So I'm going to go place it, glue it, and then we'll come back on this. All right, good morning, guys. And it is morning. It's 7:30 here. And I'm going to try to get this done a little bit. We're going to brand calves today. So I'm going to get this done before we get out there doing ranch work. Alright, so what we got now, the bridge is glued on here. I've got my locating marks for the saddle, and I've got my half pinholes here, which are not full diameter yet. Which I told you I like that because I'm able, if I don't like the holes right now, I could plug them and I could re-drill them with a bigger hole and nobody would ever know. So I always start with a small hole and check them out. And what I'm doing here is I'm just sighting down it, making sure those things look like they're in line, and they look really good. I'm going to stand here and look at this and just kind of visually look at that. Do I have the same distance between them? You know, do they look good? And they do. They look pretty good. And I can get my little ruler. This is one of the more useful things that I got from Stu Mac. And this is a ruler, a centered ruler. So it's got a 0 in the middle. And the measurements go from the out this way. Then on the other side is just a standard ruler. You've got some stuff on the ends here. They're real handy for this kind of thing. You can pop them up here like this and center them. And I can see that the holes look really good. And then I'll take this ruler and lay it along the edge of the holes, and they all line up. They all hit, the tangent of the hole hits the ruler every time. Last thing I do, of course, you could have that on, and you could have your holes going like this at an angle. So last thing I'll do is take it and just pick a measurement here. Let's see, where's the one right there? Stuff sticking to it. Put it on the tangent of the hole, and it's about 1.6 to the edge of the hole. 1.6. So I've got those holes the same distance back. They're all in a straight line. They look even. I like them. Now it's the time to drill them. So if I didn't like them, I'd go fix them first. I've got this little thing. I think I showed this to you guys before, but here it is. It's just a bridge that I made with a little bit of a cutout right here that will go over the braces. So I'm going to put that in there. Oh, this is a D-35. So that doesn't work. I need one for a D-35. I'm going to need some light in there. That little cutout would go over the center strip on a 28 or an 18. And on 35s, it doesn't work that way. But it'll still straddle the middle braces. And the idea is just to give this a firmer platform. And I've got pieces of scrap wood up here because I am drilling through the bridge plate now. I've got a brand new bridge plate in there, and I'm going to drill through it. The bridge is made, and what we're doing now is the finishing final touch-ups. Just because it's made doesn't mean it's done. I still got to put the holes in it, taper the holes, countersink them, cut the saddle shot. Okay? Purpose for this sandbag is to keep the guitar from, jumping up. This sandbag has a leak in it, evidently. Yeah, right there. I thought I fixed that. It's still leaking. Oh, it's coming through. Okay, I got it. I need to show it. Okay. Got that set. Looks good. Got a little tension on that to hold everything in place. And here we go. I'm going to start with the same size drill bit that I did on the drill press. I'm just going to hand drill it. You can feel it go through. Stunk. That means it's gone through. You can do this by hand if you've got a good feel, and you can feel, it's hard to describe. You have to have a loose hand. You've got to let that drill bit go in there and find the path of the previous hole, and then you can do it pretty good. It's a lot easier than trying to get the guitar square on a drill press. Let's see what we got. And then again, the trick is to let the jack down just a little bit, and I will be able to see the light through the holes. I got that D string needs to go just a hair more. It's about to break through. That should do it. I want the be just a little more. If I was smart, I'd use a different color wood. Yeah. Use a different color wood for that scrap, but I just use whatever scrap I have. So there we go. I can see light through all the holes, so now I went through. Take this out. Take this out. Put all my tools back. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean it out with this. God. So those holes are pretty small right now. There's no way a string would fit through there. So I'm going to get this reamer here, and I showed you this before, I think. This is an inexpensive reamer. It's got 6 fluted sides. the Stumac reamer, where is it? It's got a smooth side over here, which keeps the hole round, but it's only got half the cutting surface, so it's a very slow reamer compared to the other one. That's what I got. The reason I'm going to use this other one is because it's a faster cut, and I'm going to make the hole bigger right now. Right now, a pin won't even come close to fitting in there. Here's your standard Morton bridge pin, and see, it won't even come close. So we're going to use this one to get it going. Vacuum it up. Check it, make sure I didn't get too far on any of these. No, not even close. Okay, back with this one. And again, I'm using the soft hand to feel for this and let it find its own direction. Each pin. Get in there. The key to the whole thing, for me, is to take your time. Check stuff, check stuff, check stuff, check stuff. Check, check, check. Okay, now, I'm going to put this away to avoid any further temptation. And now the pins are starting to fit. So I'm going to take the Stumac reamer. I'm going to use it. And the other thing I'm going to add, this fit pretty fast. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to line up the pins. I'm going to put pins in there. Yeah, that one went down pretty far. So I'm glad I didn't ream anymore. I need 2 more pins. Oh gosh. I'm being conscripted to duty here. There we go. 2 more pins. Get my sandbag, it's in the way. Okay, now I'm going to look at these. Get the light out of here. All I'm going to do is just eyeball these. I like them, okay? They're all standing up straight this way. They're all, they all look good, okay? So they are good. Now, these last, the last 3 are almost flush, you see? So these last 3 here, I got pretty flush with the coarse reamer, so see, that's why you want to stop. So I'm going to get this in fit. You always turn it both ways and it smooths the hole off. If you just turn one way, it can leave a little bit of chatter. Go both ways. This is a lot slower reamer than the other one, which is good. When you're doing the final fitting, you want pretty slow. Too tight. I could tell right away when I heard it go pop, pop. I'm only going to get it out with my fingers. Pretty tight. That's good. That's good. Go ahead and just polish it very gently. That's good. Good. That's good. Okay, so there's my pins. Oh, I like them. Those look really good. Nice straight line. Good this way. Pretty happy with that one. Like I said, bridges are one of my least favorite things to do. Every step is critical. You can also see on this guitar that I scooted the bridge back about 1/16 of an inch maybe. Just a little bit. This scar looks really good. This bridge, the wood was really clean underneath there. I haven't even polished this yet. That scar is almost invisible. Now, here's the stock bridge. And it's got countersinking on the holes. So you need to put countersinking in here. Plus it's the right thing to do. The collar of the pins will sit down there really nicely and it looks pretty. And there's my countersink tool. Just off of a hardware store. No big deal. Chuck it up. I brought this up before. I have the Stu Mac one here. This one. And it's got a little collar and you can adjust the depth. But the problem is, man, it causes chatter. It doesn't have a round side on it. It's got all 4 fluted sides, and 4 is not enough. You need about 6 sides or something. I cannot get clean holes with this. And so I don't use it anymore. I used it once or twice. Went back to this. With this one, I can manipulate it to get it to where I want it. And I just kind of wobble it around a little bit. As I do it, take a look at it. See, that's the thing with the Stu Mac tool, is this outer rim hides the angle, and you can't see what you're doing. So you push it down like this, and you just have to trust in the tool. And it didn't work for me very well. But this one, I can see around the edges of it, and I can see the bevel that I'm putting in there. I'm just looking for an even bevel. You know, it looks pretty good to me. It's good enough. The pins are going to hide it anyways. So the whole purpose of the countersink is so that the pins would sit down a little bit deeper, and the collar of the pin right here should sit down into that countersink. And that makes the pin sit a little bit lower, and it just looks a little bit cleaner. And I can see that, you know, I'm going to have to ream this just a little bit more, which is fine. That's what I want to do. I want to save that last final reaming fit for after I've done the countersink. So if I mess up and ream too deep to begin with, I've got one little last point where I can save it, and that's after I countersink. Also, with the drill bit that I use, the ball ends are going to be a tight fit, and I don't think, let's see. Yeah, see, they're tight. And what you have to do is come in with a drill bit now and drill it up a little bit more. But it's a lot safer and easier to do after you've got everything else done. So, I can't remember what size drill bit I use. This one, I think, it's going to go in there. It's going to be just, see, it's a little snug. It goes into the hole, but it's a little tight going through it. So, I'll drill it out. Now, It is a worn one. 3/16. No, 13/16. 13/16. I'll get a measurement. Hang on. This drill bit is 185. Actually 184.5. And the ball end is 156 by 116. So the fattest of the ball end is 156. 156. So let's see if there's a different drill bit in here that fits better. I can't remember which one I use. But you need a little bit of room in there. 156. That's not it. This one. 1364. That's the same one. 199. That one's bigger. I can't even remember which drill bit I use. 69. Yeah. So your measurement's not always right because that should have fit. The 169 should have fit. Ball end was 156, right? But it won't go. 156. So it ought to go into that hole, but it doesn't. And that's because, yeah, so that's tight. That's just because the drill bit drills a different hole. Different size hole than what it says. The reamer won't quite get it. In other words, I reamed it. You think the pin would fit, but it won't. It's got to be just a little bit bigger down at that bottom for the ball end to go through. So I'm just going to run this down there. It's nothing. And then the ball end will fit real nicely now. Okay. This is what you need. And remember, this bridge is going to be slotted. See how the guitar rose? That's because I didn't have a sandbag on it. Okay? So 13th, 64th did the trick. And sometimes, you know, I drill straight with that from the very beginning. But lately I've been using the smaller drill bit and working my way up, and then I have to do that as a final one. But in the past, I would use that one and just start right with it. And then the hose would all be fine. But I'm trying to get a little bit more precise these days. Okay. That's done. Now it's time to cut the saddle slot. This guitar is going to get a long through saddle. Pretty sure. Let me check. Short saddle. Okay, he's getting a short saddle. I'm glad I checked. The other guy, yeah, that's why I check these things, you know. Okay, that's him. That's him right there. He wants a short saddle and a 2 1/4 inch spacing. Okay, so short saddles are both easier and harder. Here's a stock. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Here's a stock Martin saddle. That one's short. This is it. This is a stock Martin saddle. And I'm going to lay it down on here. This is where you can use the Steve Mac centering gauge. Find out how big this is. And it balances at right there. .37. Okay, it balances at 3.7, so it must be 7 millimeters long, right? And actually, no, my math is off. It's 7.4. Yeah, 7.4. 7.4 centimeters. So it's handy to find out so you can get this slot centered on the bridge. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to balance it on the wings first of all. I'm going to balance it on the wings. 4.3, 4.4, 4.3 and a half. 4.3 and a half. Here's the center. Not there. Okay. This bridge is just no, it's on there pretty good. The overall bridge is in fact exactly correct right there. And that is the center. That's good. Okay, so what did I say that was? 3.7? I'm balancing it out and it's 3.7. It's 3.65. I'm going to put my 0 mark on here. And I'm going to go to 3.65. Right there. 3.65 right there. And 5, 6, right there. Okay, so I've got a mark now, and that's where I want my saddle to stop. I'm going to check that. I'm trying to get into a stock Martin saddle size. Personally, I would just cut my saddle, but sometimes you might want to, I need to order a saddle from Bob Colossi, and you'd like it to be the standard Martin size, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, let's check my angle here. So I didn't even have to worry about that long saddle business. Draw a line through here, just to look at it. Okay, that's good. Go right there. It's going to go right there. Okay, there's my index marks. Index marks. Okay. My clamp. I've got all this stuff. I made this. It's nothing more than a guide for my rider, which I'm going to get up here in a minute. And I have all these little reminders on it. Push here. Clamps go in the guitar first. This is the bass side. This is the treble side. The bass side is higher than the treble side. When you cut a long saddle, you've got to be careful that your drill bit hits the top of the saddle, top of the bridge at the same place. If it hits lower on one side, your slot will be different and it'll be longer on one side and shorter on the other. It doesn't look good. You want to get it as even as possible. To make that happen, because remember, the treble side is lower than the bass side on the bridge. So you've got to angle this thing. And over time, I've got it pretty good, but this fits. If I need to make it any different, I can put pieces of paper, sandpaper, or whatever under here until I get it where I want it. This is a very non-adjustable clamp. I made it myself, and you can get all these adjustable clamps. The trouble with an adjustable clamp, though, is that adjustment will slip. Sooner or later, you'll forget to tighten one of those screws, and the adjustment will slip, and you're blown as you're doing the thing. So I like to have non-adjustable tools that I adjust manually, and then I'll have 2 points to lock here and here, and then it's done. Nothing's going to move, hopefully. So I'm going to balance that out. Get my clamps. I just use these clamps. These are long clamps. They've got to be long to reach through here. And generally the clamps go in the guitar first, like this. And then I slide the thing up. And it's tricky because if you got too much over here, you can't get this cleared. There we go. Move this up. I'm telling you, getting the clamps in there is kind of tricky sometimes. Lower that one just a little bit. Raise this one all the time. Raise that. You got to get over the little finger bars, finger tone bars. There you go. Got my clamps in there. Okay, here's my best deal. This is a laminate trimmer. And I'm just using the stock base, and there's a spider on it. Get out of here. I'm just using the stock square base, and it's going to fit in this channel. I also have the Stu Mac base on a Black & Decker Dremel tool, basically. I used this for a long time. When I went to the laminate router, works a lot better. It's got a lot more power. A lot more power than that. And I don't use that base anymore. It's really not necessary to use the precision base and all that. So what I do is I set this in there, get my cords out of the way, and now I'm going to go to the tedious process of getting everything lined up. So what I'm going to do is just come down here. I'm going to move this around, and I have to raise it up. I'm going to move it around until the bit contacts those 2 points, my index points that I drilled in the top. I'm just going to move this around until I get that perfectly. Okay, so there it is. Slide the base. I just slide the whole base over. That point contacted. Come across the top of the bridge. I need a little bit more elevation out there. There's my contact point, and I'm going right through the middle of it. Sometimes you got to get a light out here. Look at this. There we go. Smack right through the middle. Okay. That's why I have on here push on here. There's just a little bit of slack in this jig, and to be consistent, you've got to push on one side of the jig. You can't just let the thing slop back and forth in there. You really only need one line, as you know if you work woodworking at all or anything. And I don't know where the camera shut off on me, so let's hope I get it. Okay, I've got the clamps on there now. And the way this works is there's a clamping point here, and this front one will pull the clamp up against the X brace. So that gives me 2 points of contact here, and it makes the jig pretty firm in here. This jig is also designed so that the back half of it is a little lower than the front half. So I'm tilting the whole thing backwards like this at about a 3-degree angle. So my saddle slot is not going to be straight up and down. It's actually going to be tilted back just a tiny little bit. And I stole that from violins, fiddles, where you will cant the bridge back just a little bit. When I fit a mandolin bridge, I do the same thing. I tilt it back just a little bit. And that way it counteracts the string tension a little bit. Small thing, but it's kind of neat, you know. Tilt the saddle back just a hair. Now I got to check everything about 4 or 5 times before I cut this sucker. This is the last step. So I'm going to make sure that my drill bit is going right through the center of that pilot hole that I cut. So I used that hole for 2 purposes. I used it to get the bridge in the same place on the top, and I'm also using it to actually cut my saddle slot. Right through the middle. Right through the middle. Now I'm going to move it out to my farthest point. In other words, the point which one I want that saddle slot to stop. Get a piece of tape here. And I've got a mark on my router base. So I'm going to make a mark on this tape. Like that. When those two marks line up, I've got it where I want it. Right there. I'm sure you could come up with some system to stop it, so that you could stop it at both ends, and you have an adjustment, and then your adjustment lines would slip. And I've had actually pretty good success just using the tape here and lining it up by eye. There. That feels good. Now, if this was a long saddle, what I would do is I would start lowering this until it just contacted thunk, the edge of the bridge, and I would come over here and check it. Thunk. And it would lower. But since this is a short saddle, I don't really have to worry about having an even depth. It's going to be pretty close anyways, but it doesn't have to be exact, and it's not going to be visual. So that's my main thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the bit. I'm going to lower the bit until it contacts the wing of the bridge. I'm going to lower the bit until it contacts about right there. And that means that's the depth I'm going to cut. I'm not going to cut any deeper than the wings. I don't want a really deep saddle slot. I want my saddle slots to be about 1/40th deep. So if I like to have about even. So if I have a 125 or 140 tall saddle, I want the saddle slot to be at least 140 deep. And I don't like to go deep. I don't like to cut one deeper than the wings. This is pretty shallow wings on this bridge. I'll take this one, for instance. I'm going to stop about right here. So rather than cut here, I'm going to come out just a little bit right there, and I'm going to cut that depth. There. Okay? There we go. This is the part I got to stop and think about this a second. I got everybody right here. Let's see. Looks good. Check it over on this side just to be sure. Should be good. And nothing moves here. I'm going to go right through the center. Right through the center. We look good. Okay, here we go. Make sure everything's locked down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start just shy of my mark, and I'm going to plunger at it, and then I'm going to bring it to me. And then I'll go back. The router will work best coming one way or the other, and you'll figure out which way that is. To me, with this bit, it's coming towards me. Cuts cleaner. Going backwards, it'll shatter a little bit. So I save that very, very, very last backwards movement for the last length that I want. So, normally I'd set my vacuum up. I don't know. I've had mixed luck with that. Collecting the dust and everything. I'll just let the dust blow and clean up later. So here we go. Gotta let that thing wind down before you pull it out, because otherwise it'll shatter just a little. Okay, I've got to go back a little further. Base side looks good. I've got to go back a little further on the treble. I can see my pencil marks here, and I have to cut back a little bit more. Otherwise, it looks pretty decent. Set this back in. So what I was doing is putting pressure this way, even pressure, with this hand. And this hand's just guiding it. This hand's putting pressure on it so that I'm on this wall the whole time. Okay? I've got to go back a little bit now. A little bit more. Let's take that saddle. Check it though. Yeah. Yep, gotta cut through that pencil line. Just a hair more. Boom. Okay. Looks even. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check a few things here. This is my last chance to fix something. I'm going to check the distance from the end of the slot to where the wing curves down. So I'm going to check this distance from here to here and make sure they're even. And that's where this comes in real handy again. Okay? Looks like I could go a little bit more towards the base side to even it out. So I've got right about 6. I've got right about 6.5. I'm going to go to the base side just a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer than a Martin saddle, but that's okay. You know, it's going to be just a tiny bit. More important to me now that it looks even. Six. Nice. Okay? Okay, I like it. Now, before I do anything, vacuum it out. Check the depth. $140. Haha, look at that. $140 on the ends. $164. So that's good. I told you 140, 160, that's fine. It's not too deep, that's for sure. Looks good, it's clean. Okay. Whew. And there is your bridge. Take the clamps off. Okay. There's your bridge. That is what it takes to make a custom bridge from a blank for a guitar. Fits this footprint, screwed it back. There's a custom saddle that, with correct intonation, standard short slot, beveled pinholes. It's got a 2 1/4 inch spacing. So that's why you can't just buy a bridge and throw it on there. Plus, that's just wrong. Okay. Getting organized here. My phone's beeping. Put some strings in here. I guess I could string it up at this point. I'm going to take this saddle, because I got to do neck reset on this. So I'm going to put a test saddle in there. That one's too tall. Let's try this one. I'm going to fit because it's a fat saddle. And there's my good short saddle right there. Yeah, I keep a variety of saddles on the workbench here for this purpose. That one's pretty good. Got a net on it. That's not the net that goes on this guitar. No, I got to do the net. So I got to do a net before I string it up. But it's a good looking saddle. So I'll put that in there and string it up after I do the nut, and then see what the action needs to be for the neck reset. But there's a bridge. It's not cleaned up yet either. Now, the last thing I'll do before I'm really done with it is polish it up a little bit more, and then I've got to slot the bridge for the non-slotted pins, which are ebony, and I will refit them. They're a little bit bigger than the plastic pins, and that'll be my final absolute finishing thing. Oh, the last thing I'm going to do is just check that point. Just see if I screwed it up. Looks good. Perfect. You just always have this nagging feeling that you missed something. Like, okay, all right. The HD28 that I worked on, did in the whole video series, I forgot to put the pickup in it. It needed a K&K pickup, and I don't know how I forgot to put the pickup in it. I had it written down. It's on the invoice, and I just don't know if I wrote it down on the board. You know, people add things all the time. They add this and they add that, and you got 100 emails to sort through. But I had it on the invoice, so there's no excuse. And I write everything up in here on the board for reference. I don't know. Maybe I didn't write it down on there. So I've got to go back. I've got to be better at, 20 years you'd think you'd have this down, but you've got to be better at checking the invoice against what's on the board and the invoice against the guitar and make sure you got everything. So fortunately, customer's pretty forgiving about it, and I'm going to send him a K&K pickup, and he's going to have it installed. Still, there's so many things to remember on these. You got two guitars that are identical. And remember, I had two HD28s, and I'm just hoping the other guy wanted a K&K on his, and I didn't put the K&K on the wrong guitar. It's never happened yet. But I got two D-35s here. They're both 70s. They're both for the exact same work, except this guy wants a short saddle and that guy wants a long saddle. You know. One guy synth waverlies, the other guy wants gotos. Okay, so that's the difference. This one's going to get a large sound hole. The other one's not. This one got 9 stainless steel frets. The other one got a full stainless steel fret. This guy here wants a pick guard, but this guy doesn't have a pick guard on there. But standing here looking at it, this is pretty sunk in, and I think he's going to need a pick guard. I'm going to relieve the pressure on this sunken in pick guard, so I'm going to suggest that. Might be able to just re-stick this one though, because it's not warped too bad. Point is you got identical guitars, and this little bit of difference between them, and gosh, it's hard to keep that straight sometimes. You just got to constantly check your board, constantly check your invoice, constantly check 100 emails, and hope you don't blow it. And sometimes you do. That's how it goes. Anyway, there's a custom bridge, okay? So I gotta put this guitar up. Actually, I'm gonna start on the nut, but I already showed you how to do that. And 838. No, I gotta get some things packed. So I'm gonna let this go for today. I'll get back to it this evening, this afternoon, after we're done branding cows and after we're done with all the other stuff I gotta go do. So I got the bridge on. Whew. Looks good. Bye-bye.